Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Christy Della.
Good evening.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm saying hello to everybody on mute, so nobody says I. Hello, everybody. It's been a day. Hey, John. So all those that were on a minute ago, I said hello to you already, so welcome. We'll start as soon as we do. We almost have quorum, right? 1, 2, 3.
I believe we have quorum. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry. I think my internet be in and out. Unless it's you, David. It's either me or you.
It could be me. I mean, I'm always in and out. So, so welcome everybody. It's 6:33, 6:34. We will begin the meeting. So as we do have quorum, adoption of the agenda. Or does you have to do your thing first, Carly? I never get this right.
Yes. I'll get started with the welcoming comments, and then we can do the adoption of the agenda and the roll call attendance and all of that. So, good evening. Until further notice, all meetings of Manhattan Community Board 11 will be conducted by video conference. Links to register to attend the video conferences for each of our respective committee meetings will be published on the meetings calendar on our website, which is CB11M.org. To avoid crosstalk and help the meeting run effectively, panelists and attendees are asked to keep their microphones on mute when they're not speaking. Those participating by phone can dial *6 to unmute. If you wish to share a question or a comment, you may do so by utilizing the raise hands function. I will be monitoring to ensure that all of your hands are recognized. Those participating by phone can dial *9 to raise your hand. Committee members will be called on first, and then attendees, please keep your questions or comments brief. And now, would you like me to do the roll call attendance?
Sounds good.
Okay. Brown? That I saw her on. Oh, yeah.
Her lips were moving.
Brown?
Present.
Okay. Chan?
Present.
Donadell?
Present.
Giordano?
Present.
Green?
Here.
Harvey?
Present.
Heredia? Liriano? Martin,
Present.
McCullough,
Present.
Perez,
Present.
Scott, Schuler,
Present.
and Wu.
Present.
Okay, you have quorum.
Well, again, welcome everybody to CB11 Youth and Education Meeting, January. Happy New Year, and hope everybody had a good time. I actually took 3 weeks off for the first time in I don't know how long. So I don't know, COVID has allowed that. Working now in the school with it being closed has allowed that as well. So I'm refreshed and looking forward to a good year. I spent some time with Carly and Reverend Brown in the last week, just kind of reviewing where we are and where we will go as a committee and as a community in addressing the needs of both youth and the educational needs in our community and creating opportunities. So we have some really good guests today, and they tie into each other. Dr. Christy Dela Cruz, that's our new superintendent, who's 6 months, 7 months. We're counting each month still, we're under a year. But it's as much as we spend time together, and I know I'll be available on the Tuesday meetings going forward. You know, we've really spent a lot of time getting to know one another. We also shared some space at PS 72 for a few days due to COVID, again, circumstances of where we are at this present time. Gotten to know her well, and so we welcome her. We also have Dr. Calaris Salas Ramirez, who we got off to a funny start initially several years ago, but we're partners in crime and doing the work and addressing the needs of our community, particularly around youth, and making sure that the opportunities are there for all youth and the different opportunities that are often needed for different youth. So again, I enjoy working with Dr. Calaris, and she will also be talking on behalf of, she is actually the CEC president, I'm sorry, but didn't introduce that, in our community. So we have a big education focus tonight. I guess we'll start with an adoption of the agenda, and then we'll open it up to Dr. Dela Cruz. Jeremy, welcome as always, as you continue to be a value member in our, Jeremy's with the DA's offices and the community, I forget the community affairs, or when you introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing?
So again, welcome to all members. May I get an adoption of the agenda?
Adoption.
Reverend Brown, second by John Green. So, you know, as we begin, I would just like to really create the space for Dr. De La Cruz to also talk about, you know, where we are right now, but also specifically around some of the high school and admissions process that are changing. And we always thank you for your honesty, transparency, and really do enjoy working with you. It was good to see you live a couple of weeks ago. So welcome, Dr. De La Cruz.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, it's always an honor and a pleasure to be here in community. And thank you for giving me this space. And I first want to just like start off by saying that my appreciation and gratitude for this community is every day, and I know you might not hear this a lot, but I feel like I won the lottery every single day, being able to work in the District 4 community. And I always say it's because of the people. Our people are the best resource, and we have to continue to hold on to the hope that we have. And with all of the atrocities that are taking place in our society, now more than ever, we have to work together in creating a community that that we want and that represents the United States the way that we want. And so I say that just because I feel compelled that I have to say something, and it's part of our work and disrupting the systemic racism and the oppression that exists in our society. And I just have to say that. I'm wondering, it's easier because it's easier for me to stay focused if I share a PowerPoint. And I'm wondering how I can do that. I'm sorry if I can, I don't know if it's to be a co-host or if I could just.
You should be able to share it now. Um,
Oh, yep, it says now. Okay, thank you. I see it. Thanks.
no problem.
And I'm going to keep this really brief. If you want more information, I'm here always for your for the community, but we also have a CEC meeting tomorrow night, and we're going to be talking. A lot of this information you'll see tomorrow night, unless there's been updates. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let me just do current slide. Okay. Here is our team, which we know, and I'm going to health and safety. Where it's still the same. Nothing's really changed from the last time that we met. We still continue to have a great collaboration with our all of our unions, our schools. We have a communication protocol if they are lacking PPE equipment between the CSA and the UFT and the Director of Operations. And so far, our schools, we've been able to collaborate and respond accordingly. And a thanks, to our partners, because this is a collective effort. We do have an on-site nurse at all of our schools. Our principals have really been advocating if there's something not happening according to the random testing. Our principals and or teachers have really been letting us know and advocating together to make sure that the health and safety is a priority. School building closures, I've already gone over this before in response to the positive confirmed cases and or insufficient staffing and or, these have changed, but we have had to close schools due to positive confirmed cases. Right now, as of today, our schools are open, all of our 23 schools. Technology update, and I'm going to be able to provide, I know Kaliris is here. I have a self-reported, I just have to tally it up, but I will have it later on this evening. We are making progress with this, and I will have to say that these numbers have decreased, and I think we're going to be definitely less than 1,000 devices needed, and so we're making progress around our devices. And a special thanks to the Department of Education and just our partners who have donated and the grants and our schools and their outreach. But actually before I leave, I'll put in the chat box the number that I have. I just have to add it up from the principals. I asked for them to give me a self-report. The technology is being distributed to schools. So back in the spring, a lot of the iPads were they were sent directly to the homes of children. And that process has changed because it's been a lot easier to get in contact with the families through the school than just, going through mail carriers. Internet and bandwidth is still an issue. And, even as an adult and an educator, I still have issues with Wi-Fi, even at my own house, even at the office. So this continues to be something that we're working on. There's still a lot of bandwidth issues in the community. You could see here, and this is as of January 13th, that we have 5,025 families who have selected remote learning. So in our district, about 61% of the students have chosen to be remote. All of our, all of our schools are providing either 4 to 5 days of instruction, whether it's all of the students that are blended in person or a particular group. So when you see here 4 days of in-person instruction here, these are all of the students. When you see 5 days of in-person instruction, this is actually all of their in-person students, and that was as of January. And here it's like some of their, not every single student, but like, for example, in 171, a lot of their lower grades have been able to do the 5 days of instruction. We're still working towards this goal. we went up since December. but our remote attendance is actually higher than the blended in-person. As a district, we're not where we want to be yet. I do say yet because we're going to get there. And ongoing outreach is something we've been working on. Here's what a lot of people want to hear about these dates. I kept them on here, but actually today was the last virtual elementary admission session. The kindergarten admission is open until January 19th, which is just next Tuesday. If family members can also call this number and or email. A lot of this process is opening with My Schools, which between our guidance counselors and our parent coordinators, we're providing additional layers of support to support families with this process. Middle schools, and again, I'm going through this. It did open this week. The deadline for middle school admissions is February 9th, which is right. It's hard to believe that it's going to, it's almost the middle of January. Luckily, we've been proactive as a district, and a lot of our students have been doing research about this. There have been, the chancellor's calling it a pause. So there have been some changes and or updates to the middle school admissions process. And this is coming directly from the DOE website. So basically, schools that used to have to screen applicants, they will not use academic records or auditions or other screens at the middle school level to evaluate or admit students. Screening will be paused for 2021 admissions, meaning that for students applying to middle schools this winter and entering in the fall of 2021. If middle school programs have more applicants than available seats, then it'll be like a lottery with randomly assigned numbers. And this is how a lot of our middle schools already do that process. High school admissions, it will open next week, January 18th. The deadline to apply is February 23rd. There have been some changes to the high school admissions. And again, this comes from the website. It's going to be geographic location-based admissions priorities for high schools. It's going to be phased out over the next 2 years. This means that after next year, the location of a student's home cannot alone determine their chances of getting into a school. District priorities for high school admissions will permanently be eliminated this year. And all other geographic priorities like borough residents will be eliminated this year. Screened high school programs can use the following criteria to rank applicants: a combination of test scores, previous years, and you can find their academic screening. And everything will be virtual for auditions. Right now, for the specialized high school exams, students have to register by January 15th, which is Friday, to take the exam. This is how they do it everything's through the My Schools account. And the testing for this exam will begin on January 27th. And students will be able to take these exams at DOE locations, and middle schoolers, it should be in their school. And that is, that's a quick overview. And I want to be able to open it up to, I hope I stopped sharing. Stop share, there we go. Stop share. So, that's just a quick overview. I'm open to adding, answering any questions because I want to give everyone the opportunity, but that's just a quick overview of where the district is right now, and just information that's from the DOE website. And I know that was really fast, but I know that you guys have a packed agenda, and I just wanted to be respectful of your time. And I see that Malik and Yolanda have questions, and probably more.
Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. It seems as though there's a number of things that are being covered, and you have your work cut out for you, but I believe that you're the person who is been called to address the needs of the community and giving you a passion for its students. My question is a simple one. What was done about the lack of PPE equipment?
Great question. Thank you, Yolanda, for bringing that up. Right now, so far, and again, and please send anything my way, but we created a protocol in District 4 where anybody, any school, right, could actually email myself and the principal, we could email myself and the principal and the director of facilities, because there's a warehouse. There's actually a depot near Martin Luther King campus that has tons of extra supplies. And so any school that needs supplies, we just have to send a custodian over there to get the PPE equipment to them. And so I have to say that any school that brought an issue up to us, we've been able to resolve it. And so if you know of any schools in District 4 that do not have sufficient amount of PPE equipment, please let us know and we'll address it. But as of now, my understanding is that that the schools have been able to get the equipment that they've requested.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Malik?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I just had a quick question. I know you was talking about how, and then I think in the next 2 years, kids won't be able to be judged based off of their demographics and where they're located at. My question is to the kids that are not, as far as education is concerned, is not that far in advance. What happens to those kids into the, as far as district is concerned, and where would they be placed? How would they be placed? Because let's just say each school is trying to improve their school and they're trying to go for the best kids. So how would, you know, like how would that ratio go, you know, as far as, you know, other kids that's probably from this district but don't have the grades to possibly be in like a higher school? So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So a great, and again, a great question. I want to thank you for that. So this is for the high schools in particular. That geographic aspect is in the high school admissions process. And I just want to kind of explain, you know, this is something new for the district, but basically it's going to be phased out, which means that the location alone cannot determine the chances of being into a certain school. And the district priorities will be permanently eliminated this year. And so, you know, depending on where you lived, sometimes some of the high schools, they would really use that as a lever not to let anyone outside of their community go to their school. And that was one of the rationale for saying that they want students to have more, especially in the high school. And this was based, my understanding, and I'm sure there's people here that can answer that were actually on the advisory, but in the middle school, parents really, especially with the pandemic, parents wanted students to be closer to home or have that opportunity. But for the high schools, because students are already traveling all over the city, they wanted to be able to say that district priority would be eliminated through the lens of offering more flexibility for students to go outside of their community or to go to schools that they really want. I don't know if that answers, you know, and Kalira's put in the chat box that the geographic preference. And Kalira, you want to speak? Because I like what your kids get based on. I mean, basically, if I live in a certain community, then I'm going to get I was using that as a way to keep other students out. And that's just, I'm just being honest that in certain communities, that's what was taking place And Caleres, if you want to add more to that, I love what you put in the chat.
Yeah, that it was really that rule was one that was really focused on District 2 schools. District 2 high schools are considered very competitive schools, but they're also some of the most segregated high schools in the city. And so in an effort to integrate our schools, that geographic preference was eliminated. It doesn't really impact our high schools as much. We did have a diverse group of students, and students were getting in, and we didn't have as many complaints. But in terms of District 2, that have affluent, well-resourced schools, our students weren't getting in those schools. And so now we have the ability that our students can go to school. You know, we have District 4 students are starting in the 100s. We're only a couple blocks from the Upper East Side. And so we can now also have our students attend those schools.
So it's actually works in reverse. It actually works in reverse. And we want to allow the opportunity for kids to go outside and get those opportunities in good schools where they may not have it. So, you know, but I think, you know, again, as Malik raised, it could also be used as within, you know, and so we also have to be careful how things are used, because while something is good, a tool can be used in many different ways. So, but are there any other questions for Dr. De La Cruz? We do have maybe a question, I think, from Natasha Rodriguez. That's one of our youth in the community. What supports are being offered in the community? I didn't get to finish reading that. Can we have Natasha come on and ask her question herself? Because she is actually a high school student that lives in our community and has been in many different schools in our community. So, and outside the community as well. Natasha, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Hi, Natasha. How are
Hello,
you?
everyone. I just have one question because I'm not sure if this was covered in a previous meeting, but what supports are being offered in the community, and do you have to go to school in the community in order to take advantage of them, or do you just have to live in the community? Because I know a lot of people here who they go to school, especially like in the high schools, like we go outside, but we live here. Like I go to school in the Bronx, and yeah.
So, Natasha, can can you just tell me a little bit more about like what supports? Because I think it depends on what kind of supports.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant like tutoring and stuff like that. Because I know like there's like programs like Children's Aid, but I mean like specifically like DOE stuff.
Yep. So, you know, I mean, I will say that, you know, like they do have Dial a Teacher that's open. You know, Dial a Teacher is one additional support that anybody can call. And then, like you said, there are like community-based organizations that provide a lot of additional support, whether, you know, there's the, you know, Children's Aid, like you said, the Boys and Girls Club. You know, there's different organizations that do provide support for anybody who lives in the, you know, Asphalt Green. There's different organizations, community-based organizations. It really depends. A lot of our DOE schools, though, the additional supports that they provide for students are for the students who are in the school. But we also have, though, the Learning Bridges program, which I know David can talk about, which is an additional layer of support that doesn't always have to be, it can be your neighborhood school for students who need the in-person instruction, but that's through grade 8. So it really depends on the type of support, but, you know, you can always, you know, from the district office point of view, if you reach out to myself or Nancy, I can put Nancy's email in the box. She can always connect you to different resources that would be available depending on the age group, you know, high school and so forth.
Yeah, I was talking about high school specifically. Yeah. I wasn't very clear.
Sorry. No, it was my fault. I was just, you know, trying to, because it's a great question. And I think it's something that we have to consider because, you know, especially during the pandemic, we have a lot of people who are at home and, you know, especially right now, high schools are remote. So it's like, what additional supports can we provide for our young people? So I just want to say thank you, but I'm going to put Nancy's email and her name in the chat box and mine as well. Or you can just email me because she's not here, and I can always follow up with Nancy. Okay.
Yeah, I would just say this is again the challenges of COVID, because normally I would have Natasha come to 72 after 5, 6 o'clock, and she would stay to 8 and get tutoring. But because of COVID, we're not allowed to be in the building. So again, these things impact. And Natasha, we should talk tomorrow, because if there are some needs that you need, we'll find a way to get you a tutor specifically. But I know when Natasha speaks, Dr. De La Cruz, Natasha's not only speaking for her specifically, but is speaking for youth. And she, she's been has been a youth advocate and has testified at City Hall, has also been part of a questioning with the mayor. So when she asks a question, it's not about necessarily her specifically, but for other students as well. And actually, I'm hoping that Natasha will be our next youth that will be joining the board, as she's now 16 and has displayed some interest. And I'll put her on the spot because I've been doing it since she's about 9 years old. Although she's been putting me on the spot since she's about 9 years old. But again, we love to have our youth here, and thank you, Natasha, for your question. Do you have any other questions, Natasha?
Oh, no, that pretty much answered it. I just think that there needs to be a little bit more like awareness for the high schoolers, because there's a lot of stuff I see for like middle schoolers and the younger kids. But yeah.
I'm so glad that you bring that up, Natasha, because I can see from your point of view where, you're right. Because like right now, 6 through 12 is remote, right? And so it's not even like you're going into your own school, right? And so I just want to say thank you. I also want to clarify, because it's a great question. The application process, because every school is different. And this is where like the middle school directory and the high school directory come into play. We have specialized high schools. We have schools like students have the opportunity to rank 12 schools. They don't have to rank. They don't have to necessarily have 12 schools, but they can rank up to 12 schools. And so that's why it's really important for students to think about, their ranking of the schools. And I just wanted to say that because it does impact. Not all schools in the past had a district priority, but some schools did. But now we're just saying that in that high school directory, they can no longer add that, because as Caleris and I were saying, some schools were using that district priority to keep people out of their district. And so that was like a part of when you look at the high school directory, it used to be like admissions criteria. People would add criteria as really as a form of segregation. And so what we're trying to do is integrate our schools more and add more flexibility.
Well, then I will just add this with that said, and then, in that retrospect of how this has now changed, where we didn't provide tutoring for kids because they didn't go to the school but lived in the community, maybe now there's a way that the community, because I think it raises a good question. If Natasha does live in the Bronx, it gets dark at 4:30. We want that young person home, right? And to feel safe in the community. Look, it's hard enough navigating your own East Harlem community and being safe at times when you go to for many teenagers. So I think this may open up the door to create other avenues of opportunity that we could pursue. So thank you, Natasha, and thank you, Dr. De La Cruz. Are there other members from the community or the board or the committee members that have any questions for Dr. De La Cruz? I know Caleris has a whole bunch, but we let Caleris have our time tomorrow. That's our meeting. But Caleris, is there anything you want to add or say? I mean, you're always so knowledgeable about many things as it relates to our youth and educational needs and how we can best address them. So.
Yeah. Where do I start? First of all, thank you so much for engaging in this collaboration. It's really exciting for me, for the CEC and the community board to be together. I know David has kind of been that link, but we want to continue to have these conversations collectively so that we can continue to elevate our children in East Harlem. We have, as a CEC, really been having those equity conversations and thinking about how to integrate our schools. Some of our schools in East Harlem are integrated schools. In our community, it's also a question of like, do we really want to integrate our schools? We're in a space as well that we have gentrifiers coming into our neighborhood and really affecting the way that we can exist in our communities. And so it's also a really important thing. But one of the things that we do know is that a lot of these integrated schools or some neighborhoods outside of East Harlem have well-resourced schools, where a lot of our schools do not have the financial means to support students and different programs. And so in turn, that can really impact some of their outcomes. And so we want to be able to elevate those issues. We want to find those resources. We're partnering with AQE, and we're going to engage in a day of action on January 28th to
Tell
hold
them
some
what
of our.
AQE is, because they may not know, some of the new members, so.
Okay, so AQE is the Alliance for Quality Education, and it's been working for 20 years in order to be able to advocate to fully fund our schools. So Senator Robert Jackson, when he was a parent way back in the day, filed a lawsuit against the state because our schools are underfunded, and currently our schools are owed over $3.4 billion. So according to the CARES Act now and the stimulus package for this year, New York State will be receiving $4 billion that are supposed to be targeted towards education. Last year, the state received $1 billion. What Cuomo did was that he basically gave us those $1 billion, but then he renegotiated the budget and gave the $1 billion that were there for education to other things. So we ended up at net zero. So we didn't get that extra $1 billion that the stimulus package was giving the state. This year, we want to avoid that. We want to get those $4 billion that would actually meet some of the needs that our schools have, particularly around COVID. And in order to be able to have the money to support all of our students in our schools. So we think it's an important time to partner with the Alliance for Quality Education. We're lucky that Senator Brian Benjamin is actually the chair of the Finance Committee. And so he can actually push and lobby for us to be able to get that money and make that decision. So we really want to engage in conversation with Brian Benjamin, and we will also want to engage in conversation with Assemblyman Robert Rodriguez so that he also pushes for these $4 billion as well. So our CEC has partnered with the Alliance of Quality Education to be able to move that forward. Some of the things that we've been thinking about is supporting our community in terms of COVID, so that they understand testing protocols, as well as vaccine protocols. So I just started collaborating with Mili Bonilla in the East Harlem Community Partnerships, and we're thinking about doing some canvassing, as well as holding 2 forums, one in English and one in Espanol, for our community to understand about the vaccines. Would love to bring you all into that conversation. We want to get as many parents as possible to try to understand what getting vaccinated means, the pros of getting vaccinated, and address some of the concerns that our community has. It's come up at our CEC meetings. And so we know it's going to be a question that we're all going to have. Teachers, as of yesterday, have begun to get the vaccine. And so far, the reports have been positive. There's been a lot of teachers that have gotten the vaccine, but we want to be able to support that. And we know that La Marqueta is going to be one of the sites where the vaccine will be delivered. So our councilwoman, Diana Ayala, is also willing to support any sort of forum that we put together. So we're starting those conversations. Another thing that we want to focus on as a CEC is understanding the education platforms of our mayoral candidates. So we don't think that having like a forum with all of the candidates is the way that we want to go. We want to like focus on one candidate at a time. So we're starting invitations to these different candidates. We have a couple months where we can bring in a couple of candidates to have those conversations with our community. And finally, last but not least, this spring is when we have our CEC election. So we're actively recruiting parents from different schools to nominate themselves and to engage in this process. We have been fortunate these last couple of years to have a really good working team, but we are missing representation from a lot of the schools that we have in East Harlem. So we have a full CEC, which is composed of 11 members, 9 of which are elected by parents. 2 are appointed by the Manhattan Borough President, but unfortunately we only have 5 schools represented within those 11 people. So we would love to have more parents from different schools. The way that the elections are set up, if we have candidates from different schools, they would have an opportunity to fill an elected seat. And this year, different from other years, each parent of each child has a vote. So it's 1 vote per child. Previous years, the exec boards of schools, so the PAs, PTA, president, secretary, and treasurer were the ones. Sorry about that. My kid is very excited. So they were the ones that were actually voted for CEC members. This year, through your My Schools account, 1 parent per child can vote in the CEC elections. So there's many more constituents that can be involved in this process. And so we're really hoping that now that we're seeing a significant move towards democracy, we could get more parents engaged and being part of this work and this conversation. So I encourage you to think about being in the CEC or talking to a friend that could be interested in doing this work. Because we're really excited about how we could move the district forward, especially with new leadership that is really committed to our community. So I will take any questions.
Hi.
Hi.
Jonathan. Hi. So I'm glad to know that you're collaborating with the East Harlem Community Partnership Program. I work with the East Harlem Community Partnership Program. It's new. 2, I would like 2 questions that I saw in the chat addressed.
Sure.
In regards to integration, is it solely based on Robin Harvey posted? Is it solely on the basis of race and ethnicity?
Right. So right now what's interesting is that they're leaving it to an open lottery. Especially for middle school, since there's no screen. Some of us that have been doing this work around integration would really love for the Department of Education to sort of have a weighted lottery. And so thinking about not just race, but also socioeconomic status, preference, different ideals, if parents are incarcerated, right? To think about all of these different aspects that create a diverse community. The Department of Education has not gotten there yet. So it's going to take a little bit more lobbying to really think about this integration process. And of course, we don't want a half thought of integration. We want to also push for culturally responsive practices, for restorative justice practices, for the end of zero tolerance policies, because we want to make sure that the schools are also safe for our Black and Brown children. You know, one of the things about our schools in East Harlem is that the majority of our community reflects who we are as individuals. And so we can protect our kids in different ways. And there's different ways that we advocate for them and keep them safe as much as possible. So we want to make sure that there's an intentionality behind integration. For right now, we've taken one teeny tiny step. And so we do think that screens, which meant standardized tests, which meant portfolios, which meant attendance, we're keeping a lot of our Black and Brown children out of schools. And people can manipulate the system in order to keep them out of their school. And they were selecting who they could have in their schools. And that again, impacts resources, impacts who you bring in, impacts the alumni population, impacts the parents that are there and kind of resources they have. So we're having those conversations in order to push that forward, to be able to support this notion of integration. But we're trying to keep them accountable as well.
Thank you. So Kenny Holder also put, she's wondering that despite the dire need for academic excellence, what's happening around programming and curriculum around equity, racism, and media literacy?
Yeah.
Those were 2 great questions.
I think that's amazing. I actually, there's a lot of things happening in the district right now. So I would love Christy to talk about some of the things that she's been implementing, and then I can follow up with some other things.
So for the pedagogical practices, we are actually collaborating and partnering with Dr. Goldie Muhammad. She, if you haven't read her work around cultivating genius, it's really about how do we there's the 5 pursuits of the identities, the intellect, the skills, the developing the criticality. And criticality, I mean, is how do we read, write, speak, and listen to identify the systems of oppression, the biases, and then also her newest 5th pursuit is joy. And it's not just partnering with her, but our schools have created teams where it's really looking at the instructional practices of how do we validate, especially our Black and Brown students, how do we validate their identities through the lens of triumph and joy? And we're also partnering with Dr. Eddie Fergus. Eddie Fergus is, he's worked with the district before around identifying the data point, right? The disproportionality. Where does that leave? Where are these inequitable practices? Whether it is special ed referrals, students who are not engaged, who has access to Regions courses. And we're working with our schools and their teams to identify what's an inequitable practice in their school, and how are they going to address that inequitable practice, because it looks different in each school, right? Each school has a different community, different things that they're focusing on. For example, we have some schools where we've noticed, looking at the data, that the in-person children are predominantly white children, right? And so then it's like, so what additional supports are we giving to the community? Why is this, diving deeper into the data, and then also thinking about what we are doing to support. And these are just, and then another person that for the co-generative dialogue, Dr. Chris Emden, we're going to be partnering with him as well. I wish I could say it's going to be easy fix, but this is not. Like, the systems of oppression, racism, all of this stuff takes a lot of, first we have to work on the mindset, mind shift work. We have worked with principals around this, but you and I both know, just because you go to a training doesn't mean it exists in the schools or a workshop, right? And so really it is about what supports we can give to schools and their teams, and how can we make it live in our schools? Where do we see the changes? And that's just a broad brush of the overview. But one of our goals as a district is moving beyond just doing, but where does it live in our schools, right? Where do we see it taking place, and how we treat our children? How do we treat our staff? How do we treat our families? The implicit biases, and really bring out the fullest potential. Yeah, that's an overview. And I know Caleris will probably fill in the gaps of what I missed.
So I think one of the things that I can appreciate in new leadership for our district is that for a long time we had these conversations. It was like District 4 was having all of these equity forums and talking about implicit bias and disproportionality. And you probably heard about that from Dr. Alexandra Estrella. But having Dr. De La Cruz be our new leader, like, she's pushed that work forward. And I think we've had some really critical conversations. In addition, it's been very community driven. So she's also hosted what she's called Equity Charrettes, and had principals, teachers, parent coordinators, different community members, students really talk about what equity looks like in District 4 and where we want to see it go. And so it's very community driven, which I think is a very different approach than what we've had in the last couple of years. I will also say that within the district, we've supported the Black Lives Matter at Schools Week of Action, which is coming up the first week of February. I'm more than happy to share with David the schedule of events that will be happening. This year, we've moved from being a week of action to having the year of purpose. So we'll continue to have events across the city, but there will be a calendar to share. And District 4 has always held several events that we would love for you to participate in. So, you know, it's not just about talking about how we can integrate our schools, it's also about creating safe spaces for our students and our children.
See, we have the right people in leadership in both spots. So I want to thank both of you for being part of this meeting and continuing. I think this is what, your fourth meeting, Dr. De La Cruz, in a few months. So, and we welcome you to continue to come back and to give presentations. Are there any other questions? Dr. Caleres as well. And, you know, I guess I got one question for both of you that tie in. And, you know, like I got the letter today, I can go get a vaccine because I'm a DYCD, yada, yada, yada. When is it going to be mandatory in schools?
When is it going to be mandatory?
The vaccines.
Oh my goodness, David, you know,
That's what my staff are all asking us. Once I gave them the letter saying, look, you can now go get the vaccine and sign up. Do we have to? You know, so again, I think, you know.
To be continued. I mean, right now we don't have official guidance. I know that the chancellor sent out an email saying, you know, please allow for people who are actually in person to prioritize in-person school members, staff, and so forth. But at this time, it is not, the vaccine is not being mandated. I think they're, you know, the first wave right now is making sure that we get it to everyone who really wants it, and or, you know, that's like the first wave. I will say though that now one thing that has just recently changed is that, you know, for the random testing in the schools for students and staff, that now you have to provide consent for the random testing, or it's no longer optional, where it used to be optional. So that is one change. I do want to add, David, if it's okay, I see in the chat box, you know, I just want to know, on behalf of the District 4 community, we are interested in partnering. You know, there was a question about partnerships, we are willing to collaborate with people who are going to really continue to, that are in alignment with our district goals, as you know, as you've heard from us. And so, you know, feel free to reach out. I do not have jurisdiction over charter schools. However, I will say, if it's along the lines of equity, I'm open to having conversations around equity and how to leverage resources and deepening the work.
No, I think we will continue to do that and both through the CEC. And I just want to kind of add before Caleres kind of answers that question, so that when you get off, others get off. We've come a long way for the CEC president and the District 4 leadership and superintendent and the community board all to be sitting here and really having a collaborative, cross-collaborative conversation. Has been a goal that we've worked on for a couple of years, not including myself, but other members that are no longer here. But there are many new members that I think will benefit, but also challenge us in new ways as we have partnerships with members that are in charter schools and work with charter. And, you know, what the goal is, again, how do we expand our community of education in our district to work for what are the best needs in the community? And, you know, I have to say, I only look at building it further with Dr. De La Cruz and with Dr. Caleres Salas as well as we move forward. And it's really been a pleasure working with both of you over the last few months, especially, but in the last few years, as we work towards improving the relationship between the district, the community, and parents, which are the CEC. And I'll just add, Caleres, I was writing down those numbers before you talked to us, 5 schools. I'm wrestling whether I stay on the CEC or not, since I can still sit there as a member through, you know, the community board and still have a presence, and maybe there's an exo factor so we don't lose a school in that process. But yes, I think what Dr. Caleres said about we need to integrate more CEC more as well. And, you know, the last member we added was another 171 parent, which I am. And I think we have well enough advocates on there, and I will advocate whether I'm on a CEC or just a member of the community board and leave it that way. So, you know, I look forward to that as well. Well, you know, I like being part of CEC too. I want to vote. But, you know, again, I may need to leave that up as well and take a different role in that. But maybe it's a way to expand the CEC and now look at it that we have a community board member that sits on the CEC. And I'm sure not myself, but there could be other members on this committee as well that may want to sit on a CEC in the capacity. Maybe they work with charters or other realms, because they are public schools as well. So again, I only look to expanding our collaboration. I think that's one of our goals we're going to kind of rate today or look to work on in the coming year. How do we now further this collaboration and be more inclusive? So Clarice, any views on the vaccine or any other comments? So,
Views, well, for those of you that don't know, I'm a professor at a medical school and I'm a neuroscientist. So I am always trying to push for the health of people. And I believe in the vaccine and what it could do for our community. So always willing to engage in that conversation. Right now it's not mandated, but I will say that in some states, some governors are mandating it. So I don't know what it's going to look like for New York in the next couple of months. And what it could look like for our educators and students. Right now, the clinical trials have not included children. They're just starting the clinical trials on children. We haven't had any children under the age of 15 in clinical trials. So we still have to see what's going to happen with kids in the next couple of months. But in terms of the adults, it's effective in about 90% of the people that take the vaccine. And we are starting to see some cases where it's not effective. We also have to remember that it takes about 2 weeks for your immune system to build up and respond to the vaccine. So there's been some news outlets where they're like, "Ooh, somebody that got the first dose got COVID or something happened." Yeah, because you're not protected yet. So what's important is that you get that second dose, that second booster, in order for you to be fully protected from the virus. So there's lots of little things like that that we can talk about, and hopefully we'll have these forums in the next month or so where we can have some additional experts talking to our community and being able to educate and inform our community, and so and to make the best choice that they can for their family.
I'm just rolling through the chat because the chat is an extremely interesting thing.
I'm sorry, Angela. Angela, I'm sorry. I just want to acknowledge that Dr. Harvey has had his hand raised for some time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, sorry about that.
I don't know how to do that. I'll raise my hand. Thank you.
Okay,
yes,
well, I
no,
just
it's-
want
it's
Dr.
okay.
Harvey
We're still
to.
going. Please, Dr. Harvey.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I just wanted to clarify, Dr. De La Cruz. So I serve as Chief Academic Officer for EHTP and East Harlem Scholars Academy. So, obviously, so we have 5 schools in East Harlem, serve about 3,000 kids. And I raised my question because Chris and Goldie and Bettina, we hosted 2 years ago. And we have, that work has informed all of our anti-racist work. If you know, 2015, we made an anti-racist commitment. Our entire pedagogical, our teaching performance management system, the way we hire, the way we do our internal assessments, the way we do our formative assessments, everything we do is steeped by our anti-racism framework. And so I am because of that, I am deeply clear around jurisdiction. My proposition was, we are 5 years into this work. So what does it look like for us to have thought partnership around what we have seen with moving equity work forward from our pre-K3 through our 12th grade program? What does it look like to explore what we have learned in working with a host of charters, because we host a kind of charter collaborative monthly with all of the Harlem and East Harlem charter schools that are trying to really push this work forward, helping DEM prepship. We have the no suspension, no expulsion policy as an organization, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I was trying to say was, we are in the work and we've been in the work with some interesting findings, and would love to just have thought partnership with CSD4 using what we've done for all of our students.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harvey. And I would love to learn from you and the work that's been done. So please, I put my email in the chat box. Please, absolutely. Thank you so much.
See the good, healthy collaboration conversation we're having here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a big believer also in not reinventing the wheel. So I'm sure you have some great insight because you've been entrenched, as you said, in the work for the 5 years. So I would really love be a thought partner and to learn, to have that opportunity. So thank you so much. Oh,
Thank
you
you
didn't see
both.
my email. I'll add it again. Sorry.
Were you going to say something, Carly? I'm sorry. I know we do need to move on, but there was one. Thank you both. It's really a pleasure again working with both of you. I look for further collaboration and working together. Caleres, you have an open standing. We keep this as our open standing every month. So if you show up, it's a spot. If not, I give a quick spiel. Dr. Dela Cruz, again, you have open. We'll reach out every now and then to bring you back. There was a member that, one question was asked about CEC4 and District 11. Yes, we have reached out to them. They also have a standing space to come and present as well, the CEC5. Unfortunately, they haven't. Maybe Caleres, if you know somebody that personally, I don't know, that we can at least get an update, because there is some overlap. The district
CC11?
CEC5, which is community.
Oh, Gina.
There is a small overlap in the northern corner. That
Gina's
is,
on the call. I just saw Gina
Yes.
writing stuff. Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
So Gina, please, then you.
yes. Hi. Yes, so if there is a specific need, I was just about to put my email in the chat. I'm gonna be on a call in a few minutes with Pam Stewart. We're about to have a special meeting that we're calling before the month is out. But we do have our meeting on the 26th. And we could get you all that information, and you're more than welcome to attend the meeting. But whatever the need is for any school, we do have an overlap of some schools that are in Community Board 11, as you know, as well as 10. So if there is a specific need, you have to contact us. But we are having a shift with some members. And one member has retracted from being on the CEC. So now we are redividing the schools amongst us. And it is a little challenging, but we have been doing our virtual school visits and staying on top of everything with principals. So if there is a specific need, email me or Pamela Stewart, and we will get on it. But we have been giving out the PPE gear as well. We have been making sure we have been doing food drives. We had a big holiday celebration. We had flyers out and posted everywhere in the community at District 5 that we did for Christmas. And so, as you know, the holidays are approaching again, and Black History Month is coming, and Latino heritage is coming up. We'll be working diligently in the community to celebrate and to assist families. But if there's a specific need, please reach out. So my email is gcwcec5@gmail.com.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we really had a heavy education night tonight. And I think, this kind of leads into, our next segment, but we do have our district attorney representative here. Jeremy Lockett, if you have any updates, please.
Thank you, and good evening. As said, Jeremy Lockett from the Community Partnership Unit with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I hope everyone's doing well right now. Good evening. There's one update I have. It is regarding next month. We are trying to get members from the community, whether it is a classroom, whether it is your own office, but it's for teen dating violence. February is the awareness of that. We would like to host as many people in trainings. We have our own ADAs in certain units, as well as our witness aid service unit that specializes in working, not only adults, but young people. So it'd be the criminal justice process of what happens if you know someone that is a survivor or a victim of domestic abuse or teen dating violence. The presentations are 30 minutes to an hour. We'd really like to get some of these on board for East Harlem I'm wondering if, off the top of your head, if anyone's interested, I'm going to put a little Google form here as well as my contact information in the chat. But if you're interested, you can simply type onto that or reach out to me. It sort of populates. But this is something that we've done in the past. Earlier this summer, went well. We did a group. It was a 3-day series. I was there, and it went well. So I'm going to put that here in the chat. And again, just want to wish everyone a happy new year, because this has been a tough one, and it's good to be on this call right now. Just thanks, everyone.
So Jeremy, a quick question. In terms of the training, I think it would be great if I could get some of my part-time after-school staff. Would we be able to do something like a 5 to 6 time or a 5 to 5:30? Like, they were kids till 5 o'clock, so they wouldn't be available. And a lot of them are in school or things earlier before they come to us at work. So if that would be a time frame, I could definitely set something up.
I think so. Whether it's 5 or 6, I think that would be doable. It'd be virtual, and it would most likely be about 45 minutes. And so you think it would be for, do you say staff or did you say young people? Because we could do both, but I'm trying to focus on for teen dating right now. So,
so you want kids as opposed to, because when you said do the trainings, I was looking at staff then. So
we can do staff too, and that'd be actually really good.
I got more middle school kids right now than older teens just because of the situation.
I got you. Let me put down my form and also the contact for it. Okay.
Can I say, but wouldn't and shouldn't that still be open for middle school children? Because middle school children, 13, 14, 12s.
So over the summer when we had one of these, it was the youngest it was about 12. It was, we worked with Concrete Savaris. It was a 3-day series, and in my opinion, it went really well. The kids were engaged. I
think that catching them in middle school is a good way to eliminate the problem when they get older, because they'll already have the knowledge before they get into heavy dating.
Right.
But that's a whole nother dynamic. I still don't know how to do it.
We're talking about prevention, right? And again, a lot of times, from my work, kids that harm other kids will harm themselves often at times. So it's how do we prevent the cycle, right? Break the cycle and prevent. So
we have a question. I'm sorry, we have a question from the committee, from Jason Wu, and then we also have a question from an attendee, Kaneen. So first we'll go to Jason.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you, Carly. So I put in the chat, do these presentations cover non-carceral punitive approaches to violence? We are talking about youth, but even not talking about youth, I think we need to address violence in ways that are not just about incarceration and calling the police and locking people up.
Definitely. So the biggest thing that came out of the working with the young people was in the discussions that were had. In the case studies, it was, so I just want to say yes. So this is something that you can't arrest your way out of this, similar to the intersection of gun violence. Arresting, that's not going to happen. So within the case studies that are presented to youth, there are discussions that are had about what measures are going to be had if that person, he or she, them, what kind of help do they need? Is it a caseworker throughout the case, like a social worker throughout the duration of their case, what's going on, and other resources. So I totally agree, and that is included within these trainings.
Thank you. And there was another person that had a question, Carly. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
I have it's not really a question, but it's more of a statement. I just wanted to information share, since we're talking about violence and all the things that come with it and preventive methods. I just wanted to share, there was just a recent murder in Lincoln Projects in 2130. I mean, in the staircase, and we're talking about youth coming out, and if they have to take the elevator's broken and they have to walk down the stairs and that's the first thing that you see early in the morning, is very traumatic. It's traumatizing. Or when you're walking and you have to see this yellow tape in your building where you live, which is supposed to be a safe space. And sometimes, children, they're so innocent, but the things that they're seeing and the things that they're exposed to. So I totally agree. And I would like to even say that if, children are, they're so advanced right now, as early as 10, 9, sometimes 8, and they can correlate their thoughts well, they should be included in any preventive methods for violence because of the level of exposure. Just walking down the street, random fights, gangs, it's just so much, and with the pandemic going on, the influx of robberies and everything else. So, I just think that middle schoolers should definitely be involved. The door should open up for them because they have a lot to say. And then they don't have anywhere to release, what they're feeling, what they're thinking. Who do I go to? Who do I call? This is resources for them. That's it.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you again, Ms. Williams. You should continue to attend our meetings. I see you have a lot to contribute and offer. Thank you for attending tonight. Jeremy, anything else?
Definitely.
We do have one more hand up in the attendee section. Kanine, I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong.
It's Kanani.
Kanani, thank you.
Hi. Oh shoot. Why can't I have my it's so weird that I'm not able to be on camera. That's so weird. Interesting. Yeah, so I thought I was sharing it with everyone, but apparently I was only sharing it with the panelists. But I do media literacy, anti-racist curriculum, and job and career readiness. So I used to be a director of history at Harlem Children's Zone. So my specialty is actually middle school. So shout out to Gina for mentioning that. But I've also done high school. I've done elementary school as well. And so now I do diversity training as well. And so I know that like schools are panicked in terms of catching up with the academic needs, which is a question I had before, but I'm here, I'm available. I have a lot of programming and I have a lot of different people that I can actually also expose to children to in terms of in the media industry, in media, in politics, in activism. I have a fellowship from the Colin Powell Center for Policy Study at City College. So I have access to quite a few people, even one of the executive vice presidents of CBS News. I was able to speak to her the other day around this opportunity. So there's quite a few people that I would love to have conversations with children about in terms of what's going on in the news right now, what is fake news, what does race have to do with everything that is happening, and then also funnel them into different career paths to, once they are aware of these issues, and think about solutions. So I'm available. I'll leave my email and my website in the chat. I have a vendor number and I'm friends with all those people. Dr. Chris Emden, I texted him like 2 days ago. Dr. Yolanda Silly Ruiz and Goldie, Bettina. Yeah, so I love all of those people, and I'm also here in Harlem. So if you're interested, I'll give all my information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holder. Thank you for contributing as well. And again, I think the last kind of comment was we need resources, and here are resources. So, I think we need to tap into them. So I'm going to just go, Dr. Christie, stay with us for a minute because I think this might be relevant. So I'm going to just sidetrack for a minute and go to one of our board members, Eva Chan, that I've been working with in the community since the summer about creating those opportunities through Chase. And normally we do the announcements later on, but she did have an announcement to make about opportunities for young people. So Eva, if you don't mind, why don't you take this over for a minute? And maybe there are people here that can tap into that opportunity for some of our young people.
Great, thank you everyone. So yes, I work in Chase, and Chase has a program specifically targeting minority male students in their sophomore year in public high school. The goal is for Chase to put resources behind in for the next 3 years if they enroll in the program to help them through schools and getting to college and whatnot. It's a very intensive program. There's a lot of resources put behind it. So far through CB11, we recruited 8 students. And in Manhattan, there are around 80 seats. There are 20 seats still open. And I would, of course, love to fill every one of them with East Harlem students. So who work in either local high schools or our local community organizations who work with students at that age. Please email me if you have interest. There is going to be quite an intensive process to do recruiting over the next 3 weeks. So I'm just going to put my email address here. So thank you, everyone. While I have the floor, I'm going to also mention 2 other important things. I'm also the secretary in the Human Services Committee, and we had an important presentation yesterday from Department of Health, and they see a kind of a big spike in infection rate for high school students. So they are trying to raise awareness. And so there's one outreach director who came, and I'm gonna paste her contact information, Laureen. So if any schools or community organization would like to kind of bring someone from who has that health knowledge to speak to youth, she would be a great person to speak to. One final thing, Gina was talking about violence, and one thing that Human Services Committee is intensively working on is a resolution to reduce the concentration of methadone treatment center in East Harlem. There are too many of them located too close to our schools and where our students live. So more to come, but I just want to say that that's also one very important factor that impacts our youth. And I just invite all of you to support this effort from the Human Services Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. You know, still getting used to moving through this negotiation and zooming in and out. Are there any questions for Eva about the program? Again, this is a great opportunity for youth. You know, I'm thinking my grandson is going to be 9th grade next year. So 2 years, I'm going to register him for this program. Again, these are great opportunities sometimes to get kids out of, you know, the normal day-to-day environment that we're in and see the world outside. And we only see opportunities when we can only grow into opportunities or see that we can be something else if we can imagine, and we can only imagine it if we see it. And if we don't see it and we're trapped always in the same place, you know, it's really important that we create.
Sorry, I accidentally muted you, David, and sorry about that. David, you're
It's all right. I don't remember what I said, but I remember what I'm going to say. Anyway, these are great opportunities for our youth. We have to take advantage of them. Gina, if you know any kids in District 5 as well, you know, that's part of our community. Please reach out and let's connect. Too many times we let these opportunities go by and we cry for them. And you know, this is not easy. This is not just referring a kid and getting them in there. This is helping support that kid through that program, making sure that they get there, providing the other supports, maybe even providing the transportation and Metro card. That's one of the things we advocated, that kids would have the opportunities with Metro cards to travel for these type of programs, because they may not, right? They may not be able to get up to downtown to the Chase program. I think right now it's virtual, right, Eva? But you know, when
yes, that's another Chase program that is starting as well. that we collaborate with Children's Aid. The program that I'm talking about will be open over the next 3 weeks for recruiting, but it lasts for 3 years, and there is training every Saturday. So
And it's a commitment.
it's a commitment, but it's such a great program. I've met the graduates. They just get such great exposure.
And
I just
for
wanted to say
disclosure
something.
purposes, I'm sorry, Gina.
I'm
For
sorry,
disclosure
David.
purposes, I work for Children's Aid Society. We've had a partnership with doing a Project Live mentoring program with middle and high school youth for over 40 years. They call it Project Live now because we got new people in development, but it was called Project Live. And again, it's the collaborations of these opportunities for kids. And my kid was one of the Project Live kids that benefited from these types of programs. So please, Angela, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure what Ava said. Ava, I sent you the email. Please reach out. But did you say 10th graders? They have to be in the 10th grader, or if they're 9th graders now, they'll be 10th graders next year? Should they apply? Like, how does that go?
I will send you more information.
Thank you.
Yep. Just call me or email me, whoever is interested. Thank you.
So as I open my mouth with Metro cards, there was a question about the Metro cards and the students. So Dr. Christie, I don't know, maybe you can better answer that, or we should reach out to school. What is it? School pupil transportation, is it? They're asking if
It's
the Metro cards
transportation.
that would expire in January, will they be issued new Metro cards for those students that still have to travel?
I know that, that's a good question. I believe so for the in-person students who have been middle schoolers in person, elementary and middle school. Not sure about high school, but I can look into the response. I know who I can ask. Let me see if she'll respond right now.
See, that's why we really appreciate Dr. De La Cruz. It's been a great relationship and working together, and the response is always immediate. Even 390 devices I saw through the chat somewhere that are still in need of this community, which is far down from where it's been, but it's too far from where it needs to be. It needs to be zero, because no kid should be denied a device. And I have to say, my 3rd grader is very jealous of the computer and the tablet that the pre-K got in the school. So, but that is the benefit of the collaborations of private institutions that support some of our schools. And I think, as Clara said earlier, there's not equity in what schools get and which schools don't get. And we need to do a better job in our collaborations and working together to support that. Welcome, Angel. Good to see you. I was thinking the other day, I haven't seen you much, but I miss you, big brother. So Angel, for those that may not know, is our district manager for the community board. We welcome him. Carly's our liaison that's with us all the time, but Angel's the man, and he will always fill in when unfortunately Carly cannot be with us. Carly's really great, Angel. I have to say that in front of everybody.
You can keep her. Hi,
really
everybody.
Great. Yes. Angel, anything you want to add or just say hello?
No, I'm just making sure you all behave yourselves.
Yes, Carly keeps me in line, Angel. You know how I can go. But again, we have a great community and a great committee that we've been really working together. We do need to move on so that we can get to the goals and not be here at 9 o'clock as we normally are. So we do want to kind of go and talk about some of the accomplishments and the goals. I think this is something that, I've always tried to frame each year. What have we worked on? What have we have accomplished? What needs to continue? Because, even though you make accomplishments, we can always build upon those. And I think, one of the things we're considering today is how do we further expand ourselves? So the committee has really sustained partnerships with, as I mentioned earlier, with the DOE, the CEC, with the superintendent directly. I mean, you all know I love Dr. Estrella, and I would not say anything, but we haven't had her as many times as Dr. Christie in these few months. And I really think that speaks to the work that we began working with Dr. Estrella and really rebuilding the relationship between the district and the office. Some of the things we supported and mentioned earlier, and again, this is the collaboration, is the CEC4 resolutions, which we kind of adapt back and forth and saying which ones are most effective for our community. We increase the representation of District 4 committee and various meetings so that we are attending. And again, I want to reiterate, I'm struggling with really maybe making that decision, allow another parent to stand and have a voice where I will still be sitting at a table and always will have a voice. Because I got a loud voice, but I always hope it's productive. One of the other accomplishments is the committee has passed various positions. I think this year we really took a lot of different positions, again, through our collaborations with other community relationships that we have. Resolution to restore the SYEP summer programming, which again, we know it impacts and affects our youth, but only supports families as well and creates those opportunities for work experiences for youth. And, you know, to go from like, what, 60,000, 70,000 in the summer to, what was it, maybe 8,000, 10,000 for the city was really not the justice, but, you know, we will continue to advocate for that. Letter of support for CEC resolution to terminate New York City Police Department, to terminate school safety from New York City Police Department. Letter of support for East Harlem Council of Human Service for the bilingual Head Start program. Again, you know, we're really not going to know the cuts that are going to impact our community till next year. The city guaranteed a lot of DYCD funding and ACS funding, but we already see the signs that they're going to be major, major cuts. So I think, again, these are things we need to continue to advocacy for and take positions. Those are some of the things that we're going to talk about next as well. The committee has revised and continued to advocate for positions passed in prior years. So again, the same thing Caleres talked about AQE. I got to revisit the issues that we fought for last year. And even though we didn't achieve it, we have to continue to fight for it. And we want to always revisit what has worked and what hasn't worked. And again, continue to take that fight. So yes, Caleres, we should be joining you more as a community and as a board and taking more of a position. And that's kind of where we're going forward. So as we continue to move on, any ideas, any other thoughts about some of the goals? That was just some of them. I think there was another goal that I really appreciate is that I think last year and beginning 2 years ago, and even now with the new members, that we're really beginning to develop a new direction of where we want to go and really take some serious positions of those that affect our youth, and then to take them one step further and taking the resolutions and revisiting them. The MetroCard resolution we did 2 years ago finally got passed now with some changes to extend MetroCard usage for youth. So again, sometimes the battle may not be won in the year that we fight it. And there might be new members that are seeing the benefits of the fight that other members fought earlier. And I'm only looking forward to what we create with this new group and the diversity and the young leadership. You know, one of the things I harp about is how do we get young leaders on these boards? And you know, again, I'll say it. Natasha's a youth that I've been working with. I'm really looking for her to develop in her role as a community advocate, which she's done as a youth, but now as a young adult. Two of the members on here have continues to give shouts out. And you know, they were youth that I worked with for a short period of time when they were in middle school in a basketball program, and that's Malik, you know, and Reverend Scott. And again, it's about planting those seeds. And that's what we have to do. And one of the things, you know, my co-chair, Reverend Brown, challenged was how do we cultivate and create the opportunities for young leaders to take the steps or take the seats when we vacate those seats. So it's not just about what we do for the community, it's about what we do internally to develop that leadership. Ms. Williams, I'm really glad that you came tonight. Again, it's how we expand our community. District 5 is part of our community in CB11. It's part of our CEC4 community as we are all parents and sharing in this. So again, I look forward to working with us. Carly's gonna go over the stuff as it relates to working on our new goal, formulating our new goals. I have to kind of commend Reverend Brown and Carly. When I had internet problems and couldn't get on with them, they just spearheaded ahead and developed the plan for that we're going to kind of go through in the survey that we're going to go through as a group. And that's what we're talking about, is that when one is not present, leadership still occurs, that we still fill the void the chain is not broken. So I commend Carly and Reverend Brown for just getting that work done yesterday without me. And I appreciate the work that all of you will put forth as we develop our new goals and make new accomplishments for the new year. Angela, I do see your hand up. Please, anything to say so I can take a sip of water because I need a sip of water.
So this has been a really great meeting and a great conversation, but I want people to think about this. What about the children who have alternate abilities? Children with disabilities still live in this community. In many instances, some are co-located in schools in the community. How are we addressing? Because we've only discussed typically functioning children. We haven't looked at that particular dynamic. Also, Ava, is Chase willing to possibly take children with special needs in that program? Because there are some that are functionable enough that they could benefit from a program like that.
Mhm.
Understood.
Well,
I
again,
don't
this
know the
is-
answer to the question, sorry.
This
I
is
can-
again,
I can only use my own life. My son has autism. He has a degree from Hunter. And he went through the public school system in District 75. So it can be done, but we have to give them the supports. You're discussing supports and I hear nothing about supporting children with alternate abilities. And I think that that's really important and we need to, and there's a lot of them that are living in this district. Some may not even be diagnosed and understand that they need those services, the additional supports that will propel them forward and be able to live their best lives. Okay, cut that off my chest. Thank you.
No, Angela, we agree. And I want to just say that we have, that just opened, the Cook School, that just opened on 114th Street in Madison. That's, both of the directors from that school came out of East Harlem. And, you know, they've really tried to enrich programs and with disclosure, as they came before the community board, my nephew attends that school as well. And it is an excellent school that addresses those needs, but that's one entity. And I hear what you're saying. How do we address it collectively?
That's more specific for children that have medium to high disabilities. We're talking about the low to moderate children who are falling because they cannot, because of their particular proclivities, cannot sit in a regular classroom because they may have sensory issues that then causes them to end up getting in trouble in class, not being able to do the work. And it has nothing to do with, it's everybody else not understanding what their particular sets of needs. And they do not necessarily have to be isolated from typically functioning children. They just need additional supports.
No, absolutely. And children can.
And I know that, Natasha.
And mainstream in. I take them in after school programs where they're not in, where they're segregated in school, they're not segregated in after school. So let me first say that. And I don't know how Dr. Claris is sitting here so quiet, because when she advocates and talks about children, she talks about children from the gamut, from every spectrum that there is. And that's why I think I've learned to really appreciate Dr. Claris and the work that we do together, is that we're looking at, when I talk about children, I'm talking about all children. And I know that sometimes it gets lost in that retrospect, because I also work with a deaf and hard of hearing program on Saturday at the school, that citywide program. And you know, I learned a lot of how ignorant I can be without knowledge of others and what their needs are. So you speak into the choir, but I think, Angela, this is also a step maybe where you should come more to our CEC meetings, because I think these are some things that we're really wrestling with. And we do have parents on there that really do support and raise these issues about how are you addressing these issues with my children. So they are not on deaf ears. And again, I think what I'd like to do as we go forward is like we did tonight, where there's a heavy education meeting, is where we, instead of having meetings, we have people from so many different places presenting, that we really stay focused within a concentrated area. And I have to really say, I think Carly's been helping us kind of formulate that and going forward and working together. So all these things tie in. And that's why as we go forward, we can't get the work that we really need to get done in this committee It has to be done at other times, in smaller groups, in task force, because we can't devote the time for that one specific topic to make something happen, other than really reiterate the problems or the issues that we are all challenged with in the work that we do. And I think we have a great superintendent that's open to all of these kinds of diversity of education that's important for our kids. And we know the different schools teach so differently, but one is not better than the other. It's the resources they have. It's the element of the relationships from students to teachers to principals and the communities within schools. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but Angela, we do know what you mean, and we do take it to that level.
I just want to note that Dr. Christy De La Cruz has her hand raised.
Okay.
I'm still trying to get all this stuff, the chat, the hand raise, it's too much stuff to manage.
Sorry, I just want, Angela, I just want to say thank you for lifting that, but I do, and I don't want to take up, I agree, David, I don't want to take up tons of time, but I want to just acknowledge Angela and also say that one thing that's going to come out different in February is there's going to be a report provided to City Council and to the public about whether students are getting their services. And for the first time ever, it's going to be divided up into whether students are fully getting their services, partially, or not getting serviced. And so I just want to put that on your radar. I also want to say, and I can only speak for District 4, we've actually, your question has been at my forefront as well. For our special ed students, for our multilingual learners, and for all of our students. But like, what are those additional supports? What are we doing? And if we do not have a teacher, what are those supports that we're giving for students and families? And so we actually just compiled a list for all of our schools in District 4, talking about like, what are we doing to support our students and our families, and specifically a part of that is our students with IEPs, students with who have special services. So I just want to say thank you so much for lifting that, and I do want to just say to you to be on the lookout for that report. And I also want to follow up with the MetroCard question. I put it in the chat box, but I do want you to know that I did get a response. Those should have been delivered to the schools in December. All the students should have their, for in-person only. So they did not, if you're fully remote, they did not provide a MetroCard. When I asked for high school, they should have them ready for when that in-person starts up again, and that we don't have a date as of yet for the in-person for high school. Again, I'll put my name in the chat box, but if there is an issue or concern with a D4 school, please email me, and that goes for, you know, anything really. And in regard to those supports for students, I also want to highlight, we do have D75 inclusion programs and they've been very successful. We have students in D75 getting regents, going on to college. So I just want to say, this is a part of the deficit thing we have to overcome. And I just want to say, Angela, that I completely agree with you. And I want to say, please continue advocating, and every meeting that you go to, please ask, and what about the children? What about the supports? We really need advocates for like you to always, and everyone else, right? Whatever's near and dear to your heart, please continue to advocate, because it's so important that children are at the forefront. So sorry, that was long-winded, David, but I just felt like I just want Angela to keep that on her radar, because it's going to be the first time that it's been at City Hall and public facing, and also broken down into those 3 categories of fully serviced, partial, and not serviced. And my question is going to be, and what? And now, so now what, right? So now what?
So
we can
now-
say that we don't, we could say that we don't have a teacher. Okay, so now what? What are we doing? And so that's the question that I keep asking, is like, okay, so, you know, what are we doing? What is the you know, so now what are we doing? And we have to have high expectations, high supports. And I'm just so glad, because that's what's within our sphere of influence. I keep saying we have to keep putting children and keep asking and pushing that, children should be our agenda, right? If we want to have an agenda, let's put children there. So thank you.
If you need I personally think we need to do more emphasis. We have to focus in on parents too, because they don't understand. They don't understand the principle. But if you need any, I will come and talk to anybody about what it's like to raise a child on the autism spectrum and get them from being in a low functioning class to graduating almost cum laude from Hunter.
Love it. Please please, whether you put it in the chat or I get it from David, but please, Angela, we do. You're absolutely right. Because that mindset has to, it's at all levels, right? It's with staff, it's with students, it's with parents, and it's also been programmed into us, right? And I say that with no negative, just with a sincere heart that you don't know what you don't know, right? And so we have to, it's a whole wraparound approach. So thank you so much.
Really good conversation tonight, everybody. Thank you for the discussion. We do have to now take a moment to start formulating where do we go forward? What's the work for this year that this committee wants to accomplish? And I'm going to ask Carly to kind of guide us through that. Right, Carly?
Yes, great. Good evening, everybody. Again, I am so happy to see how well attended and well represented the various interest groups are at tonight's meeting. I would love to see this moving forward at the rest of our meetings for the year. That's a personal goal of mine for the committee. But this is a good segue into discussing the committee goals for 2021. We discussed it last month, and what I did was create a poll basically summarizing and categorizing everything that was discussed at last month's committee meeting. While we can keep all of those goals as goals for 2021, the staff is compiling a report that highlights the committee's accomplishments and goals, and we specifically want 3. So we had 3 accomplishments, and now we want to select 3 goals. So this poll is for the committee only. So I respectfully ask that those who are attendees, those who are attending the meeting at representing agencies and DOE, just if you could just sit back and let the committee decide what their top 3 goals are, that would be greatly appreciated. So you might as an attendee receive the option to vote on the poll, but once again, this is intended
Holly,
for
can
committee.
I add something really crazy? Because my mind thinks on the spot sometimes. So can we do us, and since they have the ability, do a second poll and see what the community thinks we should work on? Or is that asking too much?
Well, I'm not sure, because it's an
Okay.
And
so why don't we do this?
An anonymous poll, so there's no way of really separating.
Okay, then I don't want to confuse. We need to accomplish what we need to. But I thought that would be interesting. Maybe we could do that at the beginning of next month's meeting, is have the community rate what we. It's a thought. We'll talk about that. So sorry to disrupt.
No problem. But yeah, so I'm going to launch the poll now, and I ask the committee members to select 3 and 3 only. So I'm going to launch it right now. I know that we have 12 members present, so I'll be expecting 12 votes.
We have to pick 3?
Yes.
So as we waiting for that polls, if you could see what's behind me, this is a project that my East Harlem Youth, Keystone Youth, is part of Boys and Girls Clubs of America, an initiative that we do with teens, where they take civic engagement and community service projects. So one of those years, they raised the issues of why so much youth violence in our community, and we had a series of workshops. I don't know if Jeremy's still on, but we actually worked with the DA's office, and they invited us down, and we did a group down there as well. but I thought it was fitting because it's like, why in the year 2021 is violence being impacted on our communities and our country at this time? And why is the use of violence the answer to solving problems? And it just made me think about some of the medieval movies I've been watching. And when I heard heave ho, and people are trying to bust down the door, and I think there are other ways that we have learned to advocate and speak for what we want and what we need, and to challenge those that are in power, whether it's fake news, real news, whatever news. The reality is that there are facts and we're in challenging times. And why is violence the answer? It is not the answer. So as we tally, that was just a little side. I'll put my little kids back up next week. I like the kids better.
Thanks, David. So we're still waiting on 2 more committee members. I'm not sure who. There's 2.
Well, I'll vote for people if they don't want to use their votes, right?
Oh, you're included in that.
I did vote. I know.
That's me. I'm sorry. Just give me a second. I
Malik, how's
apologize.
that new baby? I got a grandbaby coming.
He's right. He's in the meeting with me.
He's in the meeting with you?
Yeah.
Already
That's
starting
why.
that community service, huh?
Right. Hold on.
For
I'm
those that
sorry.
don't know, and I hate to put him on the spot, but Malik's father was a member of Community Board 11 as well. And we worked together on many issues around the Parks and Recreation, which is now the Open Space Committee. And again, you know, my mother was an advocate in the community in East Harlem growing up as well. And I think legacies are passed on, sometimes by choice and sometimes by not choice. And I've seen Dr. Claris also have her children present at meetings as well. Yes, so, you know, we are a community. We are a community that is the—
Carly, you didn't let me finish, Carly. You took my votes away.
Oh, did someone that was not in a— someone who was an attendee vote? Because I have 12 votes in. Stop it.
It popped up for the attendees.
Oh. Yeah, so this
So
is
we
just—
know that person is a projected new member, so we'll let it. Malik, did you get—
well, I'm gonna have to—
It's okay. It's okay. I'll tell you. It's all right.
No, it's okay. Hold on. I'm gonna relaunch it and ask the committee members only to
Is that why
resubmit.
it's an orange thing there? Oh, no, it's orange because that was the highest? You mean I got to
It
remember
is,
what
but
I voted for?
I relaunched it so that only committee members can vote and that Malik can have his vote counted. Sorry, members, you're being asked to vote again.
This technology is, we are learning to use it in a positive way. I do miss meeting people and John playing his music as we're coming into the board office. Those little things mean something for setting tones. I'll play music next time if Carly lets us on early. She don't let us on early.
Okay, I'm waiting for one more member to vote.
Anybody, any thoughts?
Does anyone— I'm waiting for one more before I close it. In 20
It's
seconds.
really nice to see so many people on, both committee members as a strong committee, but also attendees from the public. We really want you to continue to attend. Gina, I will reach out to you. We will connect.
Okay, I am about to close it. I just want to make sure that everyone who's on the committee voted. If you haven't, speak now. Okay. So the top 3 were increase committee visibility by hosting more events. For example,
Saw it before, we don't see it now? Like we saw it.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay,
yeah,
good.
sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, increase committee visibility by hosting more events. The one with the most votes is invite more community-based organizations, servicing youth and education in East Harlem to attend and present at committee meetings. And then the one with the third most votes is increase community engagement through direct action and quote, meeting youth and families where they're at. So those are the top three. And again, that's not to say that the other items can be goals. It's just this will be what is shared in our report.
So, right, again, I think we will continue to work on these things and many other things as they come up. I think as we continue to work with the CEC around educational concerns or challenges and issues, we'll have many more resolutions and areas to address in our community to support our youth. You know, one of the things, again, I think ties into one of these as well is that we want to get out to schools as well. And I thought maybe committee members can partnership with CEC members and go out to the schools and visit them together if that's, you know, allowed, and we can work it out with. So that we're kind of looking at them from our two different vantage points, but working together as a community collaboration. So I thank everybody. I thank Carly and Reverend Brown for kind of framing this and putting it into the categories yesterday. I couldn't have asked for anything that any better than what we have here. Again, please do not feel we are limited to these things as things come up in the committee, whether they come up within agencies we work with or have collaborations with, we will continue to address them. Things that affect youth, please continue to bring to the table. This is why I think it's important. Some of the things like Natasha, who is a high school student, brought to the table today are real issues that address many of our teens that do not sit at our table. So again, I think one of the things is, again, how we continue to reach out and get more youth involved in the community board. I know Carly has set up something so that we could do some civic engagement and stuff possibly with Cathedral High School. So, you know, we're looking to how we expand our work. And Dr. De La Cruz, we'd like to also look at how we can expand some of the civic community work in some of our middle and high schools and come out and do presentations around board work and what that commitment is and how young people can get involved. And, you know, what we've learned is young people can be an entity when they band together and, you know, this way of social communication, they know it better than we do, right? And so, again, we want to open up that opportunity. I want to remind all board members that may be coming up or community members that CB11 and all community boards are having their open for new board membership, and it's open to, I think, February 1st. The applications are online. So if you're interested, young people, or you know young people that may be interested in serving on a community, I reach out to them and have them apply. One of the things Gail does is really promote young people and wanted to really have a push of an initiative of young people. The young people that we had that were under 18 are no longer under 18, and now they're older members on the board. So we do need to reach out and expand that. I want to thank all our panelists that have been here and spoke tonight. I want to thank our attendees that have also contributed and opened up further opportunities that we can explore. I'll just say this and echo Eva. Look, Chase has this opportunity for our East Harlem and Harlem kids. Let's get them in. You know, let's get them in. It's a 3-year program, and it opens up a world and relationships to the business world or the corporate world is too few and far for many of our kids in our community. And many of them have the skills that are unbelievable. So we do want to create that opportunity. If there's anything else, Reverend Brown, you want to add to the committee? I think we had a good night. I think we need to let those things settle in. We'll send them out, right, Carly, to everybody, so we have what our exact goals will be. And we'll be starting to work on those next committee meetings. So again, I thought about how we may break up and
No, the only thing I was going to add is a thank you and appreciation for all who were present and having a robust and an engaging conversation. I believe that the train is out the gate and we have somewhere to go and we can go together.
Thank you, Rev. Thank you. Any other thoughts as we close?
We have 2 hands raised, one from Malik and one from Jason.
Please, Malik, and then Jason.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? Two things. One, I'm doing another uh, coat drive with Uptown Grand Central this Saturday at 10 o'clock. So you're more than welcome. You know, as everyone knows, Martin Luther King weekend. I call it the weekend. I don't just give them a day. So Saturday will be our day of service. And we're doing a coat drive given to the needy in our community on 125th and Park Avenue from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's this Saturday. Another thing is, as you were saying, Dave, my father served on this community board for 25 years. And he was the chair of the Parks Department then. It's called Open Space and Parks now. He will be turning 80 this year, and we are doing a virtual Zoom celebration for him, February 25th. If you know, like, he served this community for a very long time. If anyone wants to join the Zoom, I will have all the information and link out probably by the end of the week. So if you, as someone said that they can't hear me, as far as Eva said that she couldn't hear me. As far as the code drive is concerned, it's on 125th Street in Park Avenue, right where Uptown Grand Central is.
Park Avenue.
And then as far as the my father's birthday celebration, his 80th birthday celebration, I will send all the information to Carly and Angel so that everyone on the board can possibly get it to show their thanks. But those are the two things. Thank you.
Thank you, Malik. And so your father's a brother Piscean. Go ahead. Okay. And somebody else had their hand raised, Jason. Jason, please.
Hi, so I guess just a quick thought on the goals that we just did the survey for. I think that it's important for us to spend some time digging into what exactly are these goals, because I think some of the options reflect maybe more of a strategy. For example, if we're going to hold events, I think we need to think about, well, what's the purpose, right? And so are we trying to get people engaged? Are we trying to get them involved with the city budget process? Are we trying to get the community, to help them find a mechanism to advocate on a position? And I think that some of the latter options reflect more of the community board taking a position or doing advocacy work. And so I personally saw a little bit of a split in how the poll played out. And so I know we said that it's not either or, and we can do many different things. And I think we need to have a multi-pronged approach. But for me, I think it's really important to think about how do we utilize the community board to not only empower the community, but also part of that empowerment means advocating for change, because things are not working or they are working terribly, which we talk about all the time. And so I think we have to underscore the advocacy piece of it. And I definitely agree that community engagement and bringing more people into the process and utilizing the tools that we have as a community board is definitely important. But I just want to underscore that I think advocacy has to be part of it, because, we want change. Okay, thank you.
Jason, I think you're right. And again, that's why we talked about how we may break up into smaller groups and begin to tackle these things and really formulate, what are the outcomes? What do we want to say at the end that we actually did accomplish, right? Framing context.
And I just want to say, I think sometimes people come to the community board who are members of the public, and they're frustrated because the meetings, and I'm not just talking about our committee, I'm just saying in general, they're very long. And especially for young people, I remember last year when we were talking about some of the issues with the MTA police and fare evasion, there were youth who came. They gave their opinion on how they felt of Governor Cuomo increasing funding for more MTA police to crack down on fare evasion. We had youth in the community speak about that. They've not come back. And so I think that we have to think about how do we actually make the community board a place where people feel like not only can they make their voices heard, but that'll make a difference. And so we have to be able to translate that. So it's not just holding a forum, but how do we translate that into advocacy?
Right, but again, as we plan it, the forum would have a purpose. Just like when we were working on the symposium, it was directed towards a goal and purpose. And that's why, Jason, I'm going to reiterate, you know, just having this normal meeting where we have this and then have other people present doesn't necessarily get us to where we need to go to work on those things, right? So like, even how do we do, if we asked here in the committee members, who would be prepared tomorrow to go testify before a city hall at a hearing? Do we even know how are we prepared to do that? So there's a lot of different levels that some people feel comfortable with. And I'll tell you from my own experience, when I was first sent down to do it, I was not prepared because people did not to tell me what I did. I went down there and right? So again, it's how do we really focus our work? The fact that we sit here and have goals now where we never used to really have goals, where we come up with mission statements so that we try to narrow. And, you know, again, as we have that very diverse group of committee members, you know, there's a lot of different directions. There's a lot of different pulls that all people have or interests that will guide us. We have to begin somewhere. So like next month, I'm really not looking to have anybody, but for us to really tackle as a committee, all right, we said that these are the things we voted on. What do we do with them, Jason? I agree with you. What are the next steps? And that's why I want people to begin to think about, if you could only work on one of those issues next month, which would the issue where you would want to sit at that table and work with? And what I'm going to need is a leader in each of those groups, because I can't be in all three of them. So maybe that's something that you think you might want to lead with the group of us and working in a smaller committee or task force. And I'm challenging you with that, right? Because again, we only go as far as all of us will take this committee. We will only go as far as we can convince the larger community board to follow what we're supporting or saying that we should be working on. And it has to be driven from each of you. Like Carly asked me today, David, is there anything else you want to add to this survey? Anything that's driving you? And I said, what's driving me is the committee and what the committee wants to make the decisions about. And then it's my job as the leader and facilitator to help us accomplish that. And I agree, we have not testified enough. I tell you, Natasha's probably testified in City Hall more in the last 2 years than I have as a committee chair. So, you know, how do we get to that better part so that it's more action and not just talk? So with that said, unless anybody else wants to contribute, Malik, the baby is beautiful.
David?
Yes, John, please. You usually have a lot to say. You're quiet today.
No, I don't have, most of y'all don't know how I sound anyway. So, but anyway, the thing is, I'm actually going to a slightly different direction, but but it's something that we should consider. I'm also on the Budget and District Needs Committee, and we were talking, and I'm overstepping my boundaries because I'm not the liaison to this committee, but they also told us that with the way the budget is now, the thing is, if there is something that we really want to push when the mayor's budget comes out that's not funded and we think it should be, we may have to let's make a deal and see if we can, and see what we may have to prioritize what to push on. So the thing, so I'm just putting that in your minds now, just in case it comes into existence.
Well, I think again that's where we all are, but I'd say this: the Open Parks and Space Committee has always more things. They got more things to rule out. So
I know I'm their liaison.
Yeah, you're their liaison as well. So John, you're not overstepping your bounds as the liaison for that. committee to this committee, you have to address those things and bring them forward so that we have the proper information and make our decision. So thank you for that. So again, we may have to narrow down our choices. We may need to, you know, and again, I think I kind of agree with Jason that we do need to do more position and advocacy and making statements at hearing. And so, you know, maybe that's something we could also support and work with the DOE on and CEC as well, as those issues overlap with our committee. Any other thoughts? There have been some quiet members today, and I know a lot of y'all have a lot to say because we have a strong committee. Natasha, I know your hand was raised a long time ago, so I don't know if there was something different that we missed, or if you wanted to say anything else.
It was just I just wanted to like reiterate what some people were saying in the chat when Angela was talking, that I appreciate her advocacy, and I just wanted to point out that there's, even in the last like 5 years, there has been a lot more for special ed students than there was a long time ago, and I could say firsthand that I have seen the change. And yeah.
Thank you, Natasha. Natasha's always so very open. We appreciate you, Natasha, and we look forward to you continuing to attend. I also see that Leroy Adino's here, and I worked with Leroy for many years, maybe 30 years with children. So it's nice to see you as well, Leroy, as one of our attendees. And Ms. Mapp, you're here diligently every month, and we welcome you. Anything you would like to add? Because Ms. Mapp, you usually talk a little bit more than you have today. So I guess that. So without that said, oh, Ms. Mapp, please. Yes, no. Anyway, with that said, have a.
We have.
Was you trying to say something to me? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, well, I thank you for always being here and being in attendance, and that we always look for your contributions. And did you have anything you want to contribute today?
Oh, no, I just want to say thank you for always having a great meeting. I learned so much when I come to this committee meeting. As always, I have the youth reading challenge going on every month. So if the youth just send me an email of 25 books that you read, they get a free book and a free certificate to encourage our youth to read. I have a non-for-profit that teaches youth about the insurance industry from the ages of 18 all the way to 50. So it's for youth and adults as well. So I'm going to try to reach out to you one-on-one to do a presentation for the committee as well, to tell you a little bit more about the non-for-profit and see how we can get services for our community as well, because, you know, youth is always important. I'm going to be having a youth mayor forum coming up pretty soon. So the youth is going to be actually moderating that forum so they can ask our next mayor the questions that really is good for them. So I'm going to be bringing that to the community board as well. As always, thank you so much for having me, and I'll see you at the next one.
Thank you, Ms. Mapp. So,
We do have the vice chair of the board on the line, and his hand is raised.
Xavier? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Xavier, I'm sorry.
Hey, thank you so much. And Malik, look at that. That is, I've been able to little kind of like scope in just a bit. I'm dealing with my two little boys who I just, we're getting to bed now. So this conversation, I've been listening, incredibly powerful. I've heard all the comments that everyone's registered. Jason, I hear what you're saying. I think everyone, our goals in general, and having, despite COVID, despite what's been going on, I've done my level best with mask on and everything, and trying to interface with the public, is that whatever we decide to go forward with, and I think you're without a doubt in great hands leadership wise at this committee, is, and it's a very strong committee, is that the decision should be collective and cohesive, and that way people can be engaged properly. And I think checking in with the community, and I'm very pleased to spend the time with individual members, and when you do your breakouts, to have those conversations, as I briefly did a small brain dump with David. But the main thing is that we make sure we're we're bringing deliverables to the community where they not only feel validated, but they also see a pattern and a program that can be tracked. And again, it's been nothing singular what we've all been enduring, and I appreciate everyone's level best efforts. And as we make a transference of knowledge, and as we get people activated and validated, which is the seminal part of this process. So David, thank you so much. I just, any way I can be of service and continue being of service, but I'm this past summer and fall and winter, people have been very appreciative of the work that's being done. And I think they're very hungry for the future, and we're all part of that solution. So I think I would encourage people not to lose hope and to keep pushing on. And for lack of a better phrase, keep carrying on, because that's what we're supposed to do. But you're already on the plan, but any way I can help inform the process when it comes to connecting our educational institutions, making sure parents have resources, and connecting all those dots. Because as we emerge into the summer months, that's where we're going to have our next challenge, especially with COVID. So a bit of a fast elevator brain dump, but there you go.
Thank you, Xavier. So I guess we can end on that note. Motion to adjourn?
Can I have my hand up real quick? Can I
I'm
just
sorry, Pastor Scott, please. I was looking at that.
No problem. I won't even take more than 30 seconds. I just wanted to echo like a lot of what I already heard, and just throw out more congratulations and just thank you for the leadership and the way you're pushing us towards, actionable steps. I definitely agree with everything that Jason said, especially with, if we're going to be doing events or any sort of program, and making it like concrete and purposeful, also strategic, and also thinking about the ways in which people can engage with the community board different, with the meetings being so long. So I appreciate all of the feedback that's coming out, and in any ways where I can support like more than, or folks like can see more of an area with when we start getting more concrete with things, and we're like, this is what we're doing. We're doing this on this date, or we want to plan this for this time. I definitely want to be on those committees and in those conversations, task force, whatever we want to call them, working groups. But yeah, I'm looking forward to really taking this off the paper and putting it out here on the street.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Any closing thoughts? Again, Carly, thank you. Reverend Brown, thank you for your help and support and leadership. Both of you have really helped me to kind of frame as we go forward. And I appreciate all members. Ms. Williams, we will connect, and I'm around. So
Absolutely.
Without that said, may we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By John Green, second by
Eva.
By Eva. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night. Thank you all so much. See you at full board next week, or 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
everyone.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks everyone for the good work.
Malik, take care.
Good night. Good night.